The episode begins its downward spiral with Adar inspecting his orc army and preparing for an attack on the watchtower. Unbeknownst to him, Arundir is lying in ambush within the tower. Inexplicably, Arundir slices at a rope, which is apparently holding the entire structure together. By cutting it, the tower completely collapses. This was one of those moments which leaves one guffawing. At the same time, I found this to be an excellent metaphor for the show itself. A facade of a faithful adaptation, held up entirely with the flimsiest veneer of recognizability.
Well, there's nothing for it. It's one of my knots. Won't come free in a hurry. Real elvish rope.
After this, the show plods along further, with the mighty fleet of 3 ships. Ostensibly, this was an expeditionary force, but, as will become apparent, the ships are carrying anything but. In yet another clumsy contrived scene, Galadriel is able to discern the distant coastline, whereas Isildur, an accomplished mariner, is not. What is the significance of this? Galadriel is portrayed as being superior in every regard, and is therefore the first at everything, in this case, on the ball and able to see landfall first. Indeed, Tolkien implies that elves have superior vision to that of man.
Legolas, what do your elf eyes see? The Uruks turn northeast. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Saruman.
In the unfinished tales, still, Voronwë hesitated, and looked back westward, but the track behind was deserted, and all about was quiet, save for the rush of the waters. He looked up, and the sky was grey and empty, for not even a bird was moving. Then suddenly his face brightened with joy, and he cried aloud, "It is well! The Brythia is guarded still by enemies of the enemy. The orcs will not follow us here, and under the cloak we may pass now without more doubt." "What new things have you seen?" said Tuor. "Short as the sight of mortal men," said Voronwë. "I see the eagles of the Crisegrim, and they are coming hither. Watch a while." However, that does not make sense here. Firstly, as mentioned, Isildur is both experienced with the sea and in Númenórean, and descendant of Elros. This means he has elvish blood within, and certain characteristics that render him superior to that of the average man. But, and perhaps as importantly, when Galadriel actually sees the coast, the ships are actually well within visual range of landfall anyway, seemingly within a few miles.
Hoping to get the first sight of land. At ease. It'll be visible to your eyes in a few moments.
Is it visible to yours already?
Has been for nearly an hour.
Keen are the eyes of the elves.
Bronwyn, who bizarrely is now a certified military tactician, insists on holding out at a keep. This is actually a sound decision, as it is strategically positioned. However, Arundir feels that the village should be where they make their stand, and indeed the climactic battle that Bezos wishes to ape Helm's Deep takes place. Helm's Deep, you say? More like Helm's Sleep. The battle begins, and the idiocy of Arundir's chosen strategy becomes immediately apparent. The village is replete with numerous areas to not only defend, but gives the enemy multiple points in which to sneak in and flank. Needless to say, it doesn't bode well. Despite numerous traps placed around the village, the orcs inflict many casualties amongst the villagers. They even hit Bronwyn with an arrow, inflicting a seemingly mortal wound. Not to worry, she's patched up soon after, and everything is hunky-dory. Adar himself revels in the battle, cutting down villagers like butter. The oafish plot device from episode 4 resurfaces, and Theo inexplicably hands over the strange sword hilt to Adar. Much to everyone's shock, the scenes that ensue are so ridiculous that they are laughable. Galadriel leads the charge of Númenóreans to cut down the orcs. This is yet another ham-fisted borrowing of iconic Helm's Deep imagery. In this case, Gandalf and Éomer's charge to turn the tide of battle.
Theoden King stands alone.
Not alone.
Go hit him!
What makes it so much worse is that $1 billion has been haphazardly splashed around, while seemingly overlooking poor choreography, bad acting, and cheap-looking effects. It is embarrassing. I'm not even focusing on other absurdities, such as how so much personnel, horses, and equipment were crammed into just 3 ships. No. The insultingly moronic delivery and production can be exemplified by the following sequence. Adar flees, and Halbrand and Galadriel give chase. Halbrand is prevented from killing Adar by Galadriel, and yet, only moments later, Adar goads her, and Halbrand has to stay her hand from cutting Adar's throat. This is the level of quality that one is accustomed to expect from a $1 billion show. It transpires that Theo was deceived, because he had given over a substitute to Adar. The real hilt was stolen by Waldrek, another villager, and used as a form of key. A key to what? Perhaps the most astoundingly stupid idea the show implements, at least thus far. All those tunnels that Adar had ordered to be excavated are actually channels to set off a volcano, and not just any volcano. No, Rings of Power would have us believe that this is the origin of Orodruin, Mount Doom. Let us take a step back and examine the sheer idiocy, hubris, and lack of understanding of Tolkien's works. Tolkien himself stressed that Orodruin, and by extension Mordor, preceded Sauron's takeover. Indeed, it was a device of Morgoth's making, as seen in the peoples of Middle-earth. No doubt because Gil-galad had by then discovered that Sauron was busy in Eregion, but had secretly begun the making of a stronghold in Mordor. Maybe already an elvish name for that region, because of its volcano Orodruin and its eruptions, which were not made by Sauron, but were a relic of the devastating works of Melkor in the long First Age. As Mount Doom erupts and magma and ash devastate the area, Rings of Power cannot help in showing Galadriel caught up in its wake, undamaged. And in doing so, the show persists in how it has no understanding of Tolkien's world, for it confuses elven immortality with being impervious to harm.